All right, well, welcome everybody. So this is our third teacher chat, and this week we are talking about blended learning, and we're very lucky to have Tracy being our co-host guest teacher today. And she's going to be telling us really about blended learning, which I, for a long time, I would talk about blended learning, but I didn't quite know what it was. It's sort of like you like blend computers with teaching, and that's blended learning. Like you use computers, and it's like I knew that wasn't quite right, but I never really knew like a good definition. So I guess before you can explain to us what it is, I should mention to everybody that when you join in, feel free to go ahead and add a comment into the little sidebar on Google Live, and we'll get to those questions. So, all right, Tracy, take it away. What the heck is blended learning?
Hi, everyone. So blended learning is basically taking traditional methods of teaching and technology and blending them together to enrich the student experience. So you can make it more engaging. You can access materials you could never access before. I think there's a lot of confusion between blended learning and personalized learning, and some people use the terms interchangeably, but they're really two very different things. So blended learning, again, is taking traditional materials and techniques and strategies of teaching and blending them with technology. Personalized learning is taking it a step further and really thinking about how is each student going to be able to learn in the best way, so they can jump in where they are in their learning, and they can you can really tailor the learning to what they need. And the big things people talk about are voice, choice, pace, and place with personalized learning. So I started doing it maybe 3-4 years ago in my own classroom, and it's been a journey, and there's lots of teachers all around the country doing it in varying stages in their own classrooms. So teachers are really the leaders of blended learning across the country.
Awesome. All right. Yeah, and my kid is joining me again now. So.
Yeah.
So you just went to like one of my top 3 conferences and I have never made it to. How do you pronounce INACOL?
INACOL, yeah. I just came back from there. I was in Orlando, and it has become a really huge conference. So there's workshops, there's presentations you can go to. There were wonderful keynote speakers, and then there's a whole hall full of vendors with different apps and pieces of hardware for you to take a look at, and the sales reps are all there. And actually in the educational space at these vendor booths, many of the people selling the products and repping the products are former teachers. So when you go to talk to them, it's really helpful because they've been in the classroom. They know what it's like to be the teacher, and they can really get right to the heart of what you want to know about their product. But the show itself was 2 days. There was a day of pre-workshops if you wanted to go to that, but it was 2 days packed full of all kinds of seminars you could sign up for. And I did everything from maker spaces. I used snap circuits. I made a little Lego car and made the engine go. I made light up greeting cards using copper tape and batteries. I mean, it was really fun. We got right in there and played. And then there were others where you just sit and listen to the big ideas that are being discussed nationally around technology use in education, and how inclusive are we being, and how much equity is there, and competency-based learning, all those really big topics that everybody's talking about. So it kind of ran the gamut. It's worthwhile to go if you can go at some point. You'd probably really enjoy it.
It's in Florida every year, right?
No, actually, I think next year, I'm trying to remember where they said it was going to be next year. They do tend to move it around. It's not always in Florida. Just like ISTE, they change, they're going to be in Chicago this June. They change where they are, kind of move it around from place to place geographically to give teachers who live closer a better chance to be able to get there. You don't always have to hop on a plane.
All right. Well, so let's go into. I mean, really, I'm trying to think of. You started using Insert Learning back when we were Docent EDU, like a long time ago.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you that it might have been you that even told me about how like the entire state of Rhode Island is moving to the blended learning model, and like it's like this
Yes.
like multi-year thing and everything like that.
Yeah. Well, the way I bumped into you was not physically, but online, and with Docent EDU, which is now Insert Learning, was I was involved in a Fuse Fellowship through the Highlander Institute, and it's a 2-year full-time, not full-time, but year-round fellowship that teachers can apply for. It's a program where you get a little bit of compensation, but they pair you up with a district in your state where they need help visualizing what their framework's going to be for personalized learning and blended learning. And you work with the admin there to help them build their framework, and then you work with the teachers to try to teach them how to use technology in the classroom. And all the while you are being given this really intensive training on technology use for education. And so it really took me out of my comfort zone. I had to tweet, which I had never done before, and now I love Twitter for education, but I had never done it before. I had to make a video. I had to do Google Hangouts for a lot of my meetings, which the first time I had to do a Google Hangout, I was like a complete spaz. I couldn't figure out how to do it. Actually, I had to do one from my car because it was just a bad time. But I've come a long way, and that's what really got me going. And so while I was looking for resources, I found Docent EDU, and you know, Matt, you were a huge help to me. I can remember being out running errands after school, trying to get help with it, and talking to you on the phone while I was out buying milk, and sitting in a parking lot thinking, I can't believe this guy's talking to me on the phone. But you were really, really responsive, and it really made me more confident about using the product because I knew teachers were behind it. And whenever you can find a product that teachers are behind, it just makes all the difference because you don't have to spend time explaining what you're trying to accomplish in the classroom. They know, you know. And so Docent EDU was really a great product, and Insert Learning is a great product just because so much of what's built into it comes from teacher experience. You know the kinds of things that you're trying to get your students to do and notice while they're online. And it's such a nice, seamless way to be able to jump into something that's already online and insert learning. You can just put things in there to guide your kids. So it has worked really well for me in my classroom.
Okay, well, so for the like in your role, 1 second, Rory. For your role of working with teachers, I mean, what is one of the really difficult things about moving to the blended learning model for teachers, and what's like one piece of advice or recommendation that you would have for teachers that are thinking about making that switch? So if they're like really focused on like, you know, they've got traditional, you know, presentation, teacher-centered, what's the recommendation that, you know, how can they kind of like get moving on towards blended learning without being overwhelmed?
Okay, so first of all, I would start small. So you can take anything that you're doing and blend it to some extent. So you have to think about not making yourself the center of the classroom anymore. You want to make your kids and the activities that they're doing and the learning that they're trying to get to the center of the room. And so by using blended learning, you can step away from delivering content, and you can let the technology do that for you. And then you get to visit with students, groups of students or individual students, and have the conversations that really move the learning forward. And so I can share my screen with you. I can show you a couple of things that I've made with Insert Learning. So let's see. So this was just a really easy one I did to show. I took some textbook information and put the questions in digitally, but you know, Insert Learning is going to grade that for me. And so then I don't have to be the one to grade it. I can give that to my kids, and then I can check it really quickly before we go into class, and I can say, well, this student got it and that student didn't.
I can't see your screen.
Oh, you couldn't see my screen when I shared it? Share my screen, share. Okay, here we go. Holy cow. I was trying to show you this one. Can you see it now?
Yes. Yep. I see it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I just took a piece of our textbook and I made it, you know, I turned it into an insert learning assignment by adding in multiple choice questions so that after they did the work, they could answer it right here. I could then look at their answers, and before I come into class the next day, I can know whether or not they got it, and I know if I need to reteach. Another example, a lot of teachers who are doing, you know, with the new Common Core, not the new, but the Common Core standards, we're being asked to really ask kids to read things that are a little bit tougher. And this great teacher I work with, Leah Latimer, shared this with me so I could show it to you. A lot of kids in 8th grade read The Giver. And this is Lois Lowry's acceptance speech for her Newbery Award. And she put in so many questions that really guide them through the reading, because we can ask kids to annotate all we want, but we need to make them stop and think. For a lesson like this, I would, okay, I don't know what's going on with my screen right now. I would, I have no idea why my screen's doing this. I would give it to kids in class with a group of kids and ask them to read together and answer the questions together. I would break it out over you know, a number of days. But the beauty of doing that is that I get the time to be able to sit with the kids and they get the time to work at their own pace. So it's not like they don't have a stack of paper they're going to lose, and I'm not sending them home with it to do it all by themselves. They can work in groups, and I can jump in and out of groups, and I can also look as they're working over the course of 2 or 3 days at their work and insert learning on my dashboard. I can look at their work and I can say, okay, this one's getting it, this one isn't. Here's where they're running into trouble. So in some ways, it almost slows down the classroom because you're preloading what it is you want them to work on and putting it in front of them. And then you have the ability to move around the room. And really, that's the key to blended learning, is that you are using technology to help you, not make your job harder. So many teachers think that it's just a basket full of new stuff they have to learn. If it's not making your job more effective, you know, not making you more effective as a teacher, and if it's making your life miserable, don't do it. You know, we don't need that in teaching.
Right. Well, I'm so glad that you mentioned the going around the room, because for me, that's like one of the big things of like for years, Karen and I taught an alternative school, and so it's like building the student relationships is even more critical, because it's like you have to connect with the students, or they're just gonna like drop out.
Right.
It's with blended learning, like, you can do that. You can walk around, you can talk with the students, you can then build up those relationships. And that's just such a cool thing, because that's like, right, I mean, that's the, you know, that's how like now it moves into this whole change in the way that you even like view teaching and like what your role is as a teacher. And
exactly. You know, they talk about changing from being the sage on the stage to the guide on the side. And it doesn't make you less important. In fact, I think it makes you more important. A lot of teachers feel threatened by that. They think, you know, well, they just want to get rid of teachers. No, they want us to do more teaching. You know, the thought behind blended learning and personalized learning is that we can meet kids where they are and we can move them forward because we have that individual information. You know, they're working on their insert learning assignment, and I can go in and I can look at the same question for every single kid in my room, and I can instantly see who's getting it, who's not getting it, who needs to be pushed a little bit. That is such a nice feature, to be able to look at the same question for every single kid in the room and not look at these separate pieces of paper that each kid has handed in. I mean, that's huge. That's a really big change in your teaching right there.
Yeah, and even when you go digital, yeah, like Karen and I, we're just sort of like, and now I've got 60 Google Docs I need to open up.
That is rough. You really have to be selective about what you assign and how they give you their content, because sometimes you just make more work for yourself. You know, everyone's like, oh yeah, make them do it digitally. No, you don't want 60 digital essays any more than you want 60 written essays, handwritten essays at the same time. Find another way.
Okay, well, so I think we're going to end with, I've got one thing that I'm going to show off as a new feature that Ben's done, and then I've got a question for you, Tracy.
Okay, sure.
And I always forget like where the share the screen thing is and all that.
Up on the left-hand side.
All right, and now I'm gonna set that up. Okay, all right. So one of the things, so we just added this in, and Ben's been working hard at kind of like putting this together. And we had this a while ago, but we like had some details, and finally it was like, no, we just need to just launch this. And so it's just a change to the sign up process. So it's when you sign up with Insert Learning at the beginning, you kind of go through this whole thing, you know, and then if you select that you're a teacher, it now jumps you into a tutorial. And our whole goal here is just to get teachers making a lesson right away, because it's, you know, as a tool, it's pretty easy. I think teachers kind of get freaked out because it's more of like the pedagogy change is
right.
Of like how you start teaching. And so it's easy to freak out about that and then forget about how like, oh no, this will be easy. And so now it's, you just click the extension and then you just kind of like go through and you follow then some of these like steps. Now it's like, okay, highlight some text. And then you add in your sticky note and you kind of go through and you do all these things. I already had some stuff on here. And so then you just kind of go through and you kind of do all those things. And then when you're done, it's like, hey, like you're done. Like, you know, you created a lesson and now like, let's go do that on another page. And so now if you can keep playing around there, or you go to the dashboard and then of course, you know, we've added in the find content, which I'm really excited. We're going to be announcing something coming up sometime this winter, some really big, exciting news related to content.
Okay, good.
But so with that, what's something when you talk to teachers about using Insert Learning, what do you say to them so that they don't freak out about adopting a new tool, like integrating a new tool into their teaching and all that kind of stuff?
Primarily how easy it is to use, because it's really easy to use. It's very, very easy to use, but it's also that whole mindset of taking everything you want your students to do around some content and putting it all in one place. And they can come back to it over and over and over again. And you only have to go one place to see their work. So it actually makes their job easier. If they can get past the, I have to install an extension, oh my goodness. And I actually made whole visual instructions for installing an extension for my staff and for the kids, just so that they wouldn't freak out about it and they could give that with the assignment to the kids. That it's really, once you get over that initial hump of trying it for the first time, and really it's only one time and you'll know it. And I tell them that, try it once and you'll know it. It just can really change the way you're interacting with content and with your kids. And I have to say, everyone who has tried it has just been really pleased with how easy it is to pick up and start to use. It really is. It couldn't be much easier. The way you can embed videos is just, that's the trick that turns everybody on, is when you embed that video into this really dry web page, right, of information that's kind of heavy and but they need it, right? And then you put that video in there, they're like, oh my gosh, that's a game changer. Like that's really what gets them going. So I sit with them and I show it to them, but it's not a hard tool to use at all, or to learn to use.
Well, thank you. I think I should tell everybody that we did not pay Tracy at all. I just emailed like, hey.
Believe me, I have tried a lot of duds, Matt, and I have spent hours trying to use something that it was just torturously difficult. And I think to myself, is it me? No, it's not me. It's a bad product. This is a good product. And, you know, when you find something that works well for teachers and it's an easy win, you know, I call it, like I say to people, this is low-hanging fruit. We could do this all day long, guys. Come on, start picking that low-hanging fruit. This is something everybody should be trying to incorporate. And it really doesn't matter your subject area. I've got science teachers using it, history teachers, English teachers, and I just started trying to hypnotize my math teachers. Math teachers are a little bit of a tougher sell in terms of blended learning all day long anyway. So, but really every area has liked it. So.
Awesome, cool. Well, I should tell everybody that if on Twitter, if you search the hashtag FuseRI, there's always lots of cool stuff from the Rhode Island Fuse program. I always kind of like look on there because even though it's like, it seems like everybody kind of knows each other, like it's interesting things that everyone shares.
Right. It's a really tight-knit group. Rhode Island's a tiny state anyway. But in the initial cohort that I was in, there were only 24 of us. now they're on their 4th cohort, but it's still a fairly small group of people, and very active in the blended and personalized learning space. So there's always some good stuff there.
All right. Well, we are now at the end of our time. Thank you very much, Tracy, for taking some time telling us about blended learning.
You're welcome.
And we haven't said exactly what our plan is for the next one, but we're going to be doing universal designs for learning. And eventually we're going to come back to fake news. And did you want to say bye to everybody? All right. All right. Say bye to Tracy. All right. And Rory wants to say good night to everybody. And we will see everybody next week. Bye.
Bye.